Hi, and welcome to this week's Thrive in 5. This week I want to talk a little bit about decision making. And decision making is one of those things that many of us struggle with. We might not think we struggle with it, but in the coaching and consulting work that I do with people, one of the things I discover is decisions are one of those things that people get stuck on. And so today I want to give you a way to think through how to make decisions. And I always want to give credit where credit's due in these conversations. And Alan Weiss, who wrote a whole bunch of consulting books, really helped me to understand this process very effectively. So when you're faced with a significant decision or even a rather insignificant decision, one of the things that's helpful to do is have a process that you can work through, to have a structure that you take this decision possibility and work it through to come out with the best outcome. So one of the first things we often come to when we're thinking about making a decision are all the available alternatives. And so we've got all these alternatives. They could be options, they could be different paths or routes to take. They could be different possibilities. And we've got all these available alternatives, but the only way to leave that alternative pile and move to something that's going to be more helpful to making your decision is to run it through a filter. And so a filter is a way to take all of this stuff and drive it forward. And I think traditionally I always use the left and right side of a piece of paper. So on the left side are what are all the positives, what are all the negatives. The problem is that filter system is a little bit limited, although you might be able to structure it in within this thing. So you've got all these available alternatives. And the filter that you use first, and the first important filter, is what are the required musts to get the outcome you want? And so what might be realistic in terms of a must? What must you have to get an optimal result? What's mandatory? What has to happen in order for this to occur? And the next is measurable. Can you measure this? So if you've got a range of alternatives, a range of options, a range of possibilities or opportunities, in order to help make a decision, the first thing you have to determine is what are the musts? So what's mandatory? Now, once you get through that filter, the next obvious filter that I think has to come into play is the desired wants. So these are the musts, and then in terms of making a better decision, you then go for, well, what do I want? And those are the things that are extras, that are the bonuses, those are the positives, the feel-good things. So for example, if your decision is to have a new car, and you want a new car, a lot of people get very quickly seduced by the new electric car, the Tesla, let's say. So you hear about the Tesla and you go look at it and you go, man, I really want that car. The problem is it's not appropriate to buy that car if you haven't first figured out the required musts. And the required musts in a car's case might be, I need a car that can go 800 miles in one shot. Well, the Tesla can only do 400, so you're kind of shot there. Or your required must might be you've got a kid, or you've got 3 kids, or you got 5 kids. Now, if you've got 5 kids, you can't go in a Tesla. You got to go in a minivan. So the musts have to outweigh the wants. And if a lot of times what happens, and there's a caution right here, is that often people negotiate their wants to get their musts, and they get it backwards. So they go, okay, I'm going to give up my musts and to get my wants. The problem is if you do that, you make a bad decision, because what happens is these musts end up becoming more important. So you got these alternatives. What are the musts? That helps you narrow it. What are the wants? That gives you structure around it. That gives you those benefits, those bonuses. But this always has to follow this. And then finally, you run what's left in terms of these alternatives through this acceptable risk. Is there a risk that I have to take with this? Is it acceptable to me? And I don't want to spend a lot of time there, but you don't want to get to here and realize, oh man, the risk is too high. So let's say you want to buy a Tesla and it fits your musts and it fits your wants, but you only have $40,000. Well, if the car costs $90,000, there's a risk factor there. You don't necessarily want to create a detrimental risk to yourself. So when you process through that, I believe it's at that point you get to a balanced decision. So from that perspective, it's much easier to make a decision if you have structure to do so. It's much easier to get to a balanced decision that supports you in terms of creating the outcome you want and the desired outcome. Saves you from bad decisions, and it gives you a better alternative in the long run. I hope that helps. We'll talk to you next time.